like a third, maybe even half of the caucus in a way. Just if just he signals that it's time for Trump to go, then it's really time for Trump to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mitch McConnell definitely has a very big overarching arm around the Republicans in the U.S. Senate. I mean, he practically is the make or breaker. I mean, it's ridiculous what he has done in the U.S. Senate. But overall, I think the one thing that Mitch McConnell supports about getting rid of Trump is that he knows that he's a liability. He saw what happened in 2020 because of him. I mean, this guy lost his majority leader position, even though technically, if Trump never look, I'm going to be honest, if Trump never talked about the voter fraud, we probably would have seen a 51 to 49 U.S. Senate with David Perdue reelected and Raphael Warnock most likely elected himself. But that might have not even happened because who knows? Maybe both the Republican senators got reelected. But getting back to the point, the one thing I think that Mitch McConnell is just really against, he doesn't want to impeach Trump because, he doesn't like him for what he did. No, he doesn't give a shit about that. He cares more about getting Trump out of the party so that he can actually start being the main man of the party, main picture boy. And honestly, I partly think he wants to get rid of the entire fast pass that the Democrats partly have on campaigning of anti-Trumpy, because it worked in 2018. The Democrats didn't really use it as much as they could have in 2020 in many of their House races, as we saw many of these incumbents who probably could have tied their Republican challengers, so Trump decided not to. So, I mean, look, the anti-Trump message does work. It does incite a lot of the Democratic base. And I think that Mitch McConnell notices that. I mean, he obviously saw that with the 2018 midterm elections. And I think partly most Republicans did, and most Republicans were probably shocked with some of the wins in some districts that we had. But overall, I think the entire thing here is just about getting rid of Trump so that the Republicans can have a more stable approach. But at the same time, even getting rid of Trump, you're still going to have the ripple effect. I mean, you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. You have an ever-expanding QAnon group that's probably going to be in the halls of Congress in a couple of years, like the progressives, have been kind of making slight ripples over the years. We already got two QAnoners. 2 years ago, we had four newcomer progressives. At this pace, we're going to have progressives slightly more than the QAnon if they actually expand in 2 years from now, which, to be honest with you, I wouldn't really be too shocked because of the entire
Yeah,
rhetoric that's in the
yeah.
Republican Party.
I really do get the sense it's a cost benefit analysis. Like, how much is Trump going to get in the way, or is he going to continue to help? And I think for a long time, McConnell thought that, oh yeah, he's getting in the way here. Like, this is a big problem. We're seeing a not insignificant portion of the corporate base of the Republican Party getting really uncomfortable, starting to pull away funds, and I think that was a huge red flag for McConnell. But the question is, what turned him away from that? He said that this clearly constitutional impeachment trial was unconstitutional. So, what, do you have any guess as to what that change was from, previously when he made all those statements, kind of probably had it leaked to the New York Times that he was considering impeachment, or whatever news outlet it was? What was the change there, do you think?
Well, I think that he recognized that the threat of Trump-endorsed primaries pretty imminent. Well, yeah, he's going to be, I think, 80s. I don't know how old he is. 86, I think, or 85 in 6 years when he's up. I think he recognizes that Trump still has a big effect on the party. He's he already watched two Mitch McConnell 2.0 candidates. Well, besides Clay Loeffler, I would more like just David Perdue at this point. Because David Perdue was pretty much like Mitch McConnell. He was just riding the train just to get on the train and just keep on going to get through the party. I would not really necessarily say that David Perdue was a Trump Republican. I would definitely say he's more like a Mitch McConnell Republican. But overall, I think the one thing that Mitch McConnell definitely did with his change is I think he recognizes that Donald Trump will be a very, very, very vocal part of the Republican Party. I mean, Ronna McDaniel is, this lady, these people are ridiculous. I get so frustrated when I say their names after the whole voter fraud thing, but Let me continue here. I know Ronna McDaniel, for example, she was recently reelected for the GOP chairwoman, and she literally said, uh, Trump is our future. Arizona GOP. They censured their governor, Doug Ducey, who I have very little respect for. I don't really care for his policies, but the fact of the matter is this guy won re-election by 13 points in a blue wave year. I mean, these people are censuring people who win in Arizona because they're not Trumpists. While yes, I don't agree with Doug Ducey's policies whatsoever, one thing I will say is at least this guy didn't bow down to Trump when he was attacking him for Arizona's thing. Well, the whole reason the censure, by the way, was because of the fact that he signed, he validated I think it's 9 electoral votes. No, I don't even know how many electoral. I forgot. 8, I think it is, from Arizona. I forgot when he validated them for Biden. I think it's actually 11. Excuse me. When he validated them for Biden, I know Kelly Ward, who is the Arizona GOP chairwoman. I mean, these are just some characters. I mean, you can go. The list goes on. Florida, for example, they said the future is Trump. Everyone in the Republican Party says the future is Trump. Like, it is more apparent as the days go on that Donald Trump did, in fact, leave a very, very big stain in the Republican Party. I mean, more apparent probably to Joe Biden than it is to me, given the fact that supposedly him and a lot of the senators were good friends now. I mean, he doesn't even give a damn crap of working with them, which, again, is part of the reason why I personally think Mitch McConnell stayed with Trump and didn't really want to do with the impeachment, because he recognizes that Donald Trump is the Republican Party, and the Republican Party is beholden and delivers every single day of the week to Donald Trump's demands and what he would like to see for the party as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I really do feel like, though, for a moment there, they would have had, an opportunity to, like, probably change the course. They would have had an opportunity to be like, get Donald Trump out of the party. They could have, if they had been aggressive in that and like having a lot of people just turn the tide. I think that, especially with the media, they could have kicked Trump out of the party. But I guess just like in 2016, like right down the line, they just missed their chance. And now he has, I think, reestablished himself. We've seen a big, like, Kevin McCarthy originally saying that, oh, yeah, Trump does bear responsibility. Oh, he doesn't bear responsibility anymore. We put our fingers up to the wind, and we know which way the wind is blowing within the Republican Party. I think that's absolutely right. And I think also it could lead to a lot of people's kind of claims about the electoral success of the Republican Party being substantially, or the demise of the Republican Party, electoral demise of the Republican Party being like kind of greatly overplayed, as they always are with the Democrats. We always go, oh, the Republican Party, like they're about to fail, they're going down, they're screwed. But a lot of the times that is just not how it is. And I do think that the Republican Party could keep their whole coalition intact from 2022 even into 2024.
I don't believe it, unless Donald Trump is on the ballot. I don't believe so.
So you think a lot of that is, you think a lot of the kind of conditional success is Trump? Like, it comes from Trump as a person, not like, do you think
from him being on the ballot, because he brings out people
so like he couldn't
never
just,
come out.
He just couldn't put a chosen heir. You think he could pass that on to somebody, or do you think that the Republican base only responds to Trump when he is there physically on the ballot?
Oh no, I think they'll bow down to him. I think that. Let me try to think here. I think what they'll most likely have a problem is, even though Donald Trump may endorse. Look, we saw this in Georgia. This is like literally a prime time example. We saw it in Georgia. We saw it in Pennsylvania's special election in 2017 with Conor Lamb. Okay, we see it time and time again. When Donald Trump is not on the ballot, and even if he goes and endorses, and I guess the guy in Pennsylvania is probably a little better because he wasn't spewing voter fraud BS at that time. And this was a special election in March, by the way. Democrats usually don't show up for special elections, but they did. And Donald Trump endorsed the Republican candidate. Like, literally, he held 3 rallies in the congressional district before the special election occurred in March of 2017. So this whole notion of, that the Republican Party is going to be able to win again like they did this time around. You have to recognize as well, we had a massive turnout this time. This is like a 68% turnout.
Yeah, and a lot of
Um,
that came from, I think, mail-in voting, like
yeah,
the kind of increase in mail-in voting. A lot of people, like a lot of that turnout was Republican, like like
yeah.
the water level rose on both sides. Like turnout came up on both sides, partisan. Is that fair to say?
I would definitely agree. And I think the reason why that's the case is because Donald Trump really energizes a large amount of the Republican and, quite frankly, I would say even nonpartisan people who decided to become Trumpist from 2016 um, in this country that they really want to go out and vote from. Now, for the reason in the House why I believe that the Republicans gained some seats is because while yes, many of these districts that Democrats miraculous, I don't even know how the hell they did it. They Democrats, I'm talking about the congressional, the 15 we lost. Almost all of them, I think, but besides like six or seven, went to Biden. Um, all of the ones in California went to Biden, each and every one. Yet all four of them had, this is the 25th congressional district, 21st, the 39th, and 48th. We have David Valadao in 21st, Mike Garcia in 25th, Young Kim in 39, and Michelle Steele in the 48th. All four of those districts were Republican pickups in California. All four of them went to Biden. Actually, Valadao's issue went to Biden by 10 points, and TJ Cox still lost by 1%.
So what was the big incentive behind that was just you
I
think
think the
Trump
socialist scare.
lifted them up?
I think the socialist scare, I think that actually did have an effect. And I think also not ring on any type of, I think a lot of these guys, two of them in particular, and I'm not blaming the socialist thing as the entire reason. The reason why I mentioned
But like, why
that
in California though?
well, I think 30% of it was that. Well, because partially the Republican Party somehow did actually have a big turnout in 2020. I think partially, again, the mail-in ballots. We saw that in Hawaii, of all states. There was a 5-point shift to Trump. It wasn't because, Democrats decided to vote for Trump. It was just because Hawaii mailed a ballot to every single resident. I know California did the same. But one thing I'll say is the fact that like the 21st, for example, went to Biden by 10 points, it went to the Republican by 1. TJ Cox was probably one of the only guys who I would probably say of the 4 that lost, who was actually running on policy and his record. I think what scared a lot of people there, however, is I think the rhetoric of what Valadao was going by. I mean, he was like saying, oh, this guy voted for impeachment, like he's with Nancy Pelosi, this and other crap. I think the problem with the Democrats, they never go on the defense enough. They always like kind of brush it off and go back onto offense saying, look what I did, like my record, this and that. Like they just ignore it.
And a
And
lot
the
of
main
that
problem
was because that's like the Orange County, like northern area, right?
this specific district is Fresno Valley, excuse me, Fresno Valley.
Because
The
like
Orange
there
County
was
is the 39th and the 48th, which is the two Korean American women, the young Kim and Michelle Steele.
yeah,
But both
those
those
they
guys, they
won.
were on neutral. Those
They
guys,
they
Harley
were
Ruda.
they were big because like they were more successful because of like the anti-mask thing that was like big in California, right? Because they have a like big kind of
Yeah,
undercurrent of
that
like
and also I'd even
conspiracy.
blame the I'd even blame the Democratic incumbents though, because I think from what I was reading online a lot of the times is that, like, for example, one of them, Gil Cisneros, who's from the 39th Congressional District, Young Kim beat him by 6,000 votes. 6,000 votes. Uh, he did not run as many ads as he did in 2018. He took the back seat because I think a lot of Democrats believed the polling way too much, and they thought, okay, well, I'm going to win by a big margin, so I'll just take the back seat. Harley Rauda did the same exact method. And the problem with doing that in these type of congressional districts is you can't do that because these are congressional districts that, for the 48th congressional district, they never had a Democrat representing there. Okay, and Michelle Steele was an Orange County supervisor, and that district is only in Orange County. You're going against pretty much a community, a well-known community leader, and you're taking the back seat. I mean, this is not method of campaigning which you do. Well, yes, I understand the coronavirus has an effect. Well, yes, I understand this and that. To recognize that if the Republicans are knocking on doors, you ought to be knocking on doors as well, because all you're doing is giving them a fast pass to gain more voters while you're basically
And
losing
you have
voters.
the like the environment. It's so easy to forget like how insanely bad the Republicans looked, especially at that time, and how like it's very easy to imagine like a Democratic representative, especially like someone like Gil Cisneros, getting very complacent there in California. It's gonna be interesting to see if they can get their act together this time and actually kind of pull a little bit of the